All right, Alexander, let's talk about the upcoming elections in Germany. February 23rd is the date. We're about a month away from the big elections in Germany, the snap elections in Germany. And the trend is looking very good upwards for the AfD and Alice Weidel. For CDU Merz, BlackRock Merz, stagnant to downwards, I guess you could say. I mean, no one really talks about Merz at all.
No.
I mean, I can't imagine him as a chancellor of Germany because he's just so he's a non-entity, it seems, except for, the times every now and then where he talks about defeating Russia or having Putin surrender to him, bowing down to Merz. He talks about these things. Except for these moments of his delusion, he's pretty much a non-entity. I mean, Alice Weidel has sucked up all the oxygen when it comes to the German elections, as well as the BSW Sarah Wagenknecht's party, which also seems to be on the rise. Olaf Scholz, how's he doing? The Greens, how are they doing? What are things looking like in Germany?
It is a very, very interesting situation. Now, we've still got several weeks to go and things might reverse and all kinds of things may happen. But for the moment, Weidel and the AfD clearly have momentum and they are now polling. I mean, all opinion polls are putting them above 20%. Some opinion polls are suggesting they may get as much as 24%, I think I saw in one poll. And if they continue to get momentum, then of course, and are able to consolidate around there, that would be a major political shift, a major political revolution. And interestingly enough, the BSW, which has basically started from zero, and which many people thought would not poll enough votes to get into the Bundestag, it needs at least 5% of the vote to actually get representation in the Bundestag. It is now polling at 7%, well above that, and is also growing. So what is happening is that the SPD, Scholz's party, is coming under pressure from the BSW on the left, and Merz and the CDU-CSU are coming under pressure from the AfD. And in particular, if you're talking about the political contest between Merz and Weidel, she's running rings around him. I mean, I don't think there's any. I mean, she's proving to be a far more dynamic, much more charismatic, far more intelligent political leader than Merz himself is. In some ways, I'm going to say this, she reminds me a little bit of the early Maloney. Just saying. So, it is having a very significant effect already on what the two big parties are doing. So Scholz, under pressure from the BSW, which, for example, says that they want to end further German support for the war in Ukraine. He's now starting to shift on this. He's blocking further arms and financial deliveries to Ukraine. He is worried that if he continues to take a hard line on Ukraine, the SPD, which is on around 16%, could see its vote fall, with the BSW making more gains in the SPD's West German heartlands. And with Merz, it's turning out to be the same. Now, until a few weeks ago, he was posing as the great hardline figure who was going to stand up to Putin and all of these things, who was going to send the Taurus missiles to Ukraine and do all of that. Now, if he's elected, if he becomes chancellor, I think he will still probably want to do all of those things. Left to himself, he probably would want to do all of those things. But now, in the election, he's starting to water down his support for Ukraine a little. So he's now becoming more careful about the delivery of Taurus missiles to Ukraine. He's talking less about that and about sending more financial and military support to Ukraine. He is hiding behind the same budget rules that Olaf Scholz is hiding behind, to say, well, maybe we have to really look at this, see about those budget rules and think about how all this is going to be done before we can move forward with that. So you can already see that there's a shift in the major parties. But I don't think anybody's very convinced by it. Neither of these two big parties, neither the CDU-CSU nor the SPD, I think convinced many people in Germany that they have real answers to Germany's increasingly profound economic problems. Merz is posing as the person who's going to carry out a more free market shifts within Germany. He's copying from the AfD here. When people hear that, they probably prefer to take that from Alice Weidel and from the AfD, because she sounds more convincing when she says this. Both parties, both the SPD and the CDU-CSU, are appearing to take a somewhat harder line on migration issues. But again, I don't think anybody really believes that they is really convinced by them on this. It makes it seem again as if the AfD and even the BSW are more convincing ultimately on this topic. So that means that these two main parties for the moment are fading. The CDU-CSU is perhaps not just stagnating, but even losing ground. The latest opinion poll puts them at 29%, whereas a few weeks ago they were polling at 32%. If they fall below 29%, then they're in serious trouble, by the way. And that leaves the Greens. And the Greens are the hardline party. They ardently support Ukraine. They ardently support the whole program of, changing Germany's whole energy structure, a program which Weidel and the AfD, by the way, categorically reject. I mean, Weidel is talking about restarting Nord Stream, doing away with windmills, doing all that kind of thing. Anyway, the Greens are retreating into being the party that believes in and stands for those things, and which continues to stand by Ukraine. And we've had this extraordinary performance in the German cabinet with Baerbock basically walking out and Scholz trying to persuade her to stay. We've all seen the photo. Baerbock is saying, well, this is all, this wasn't really true, but my own view is it probably was, actually, just saying. But anyway, the Greens are standing for the policy that Germany has been following for the last 3 years. And it still has some support in Germany. And it means that the Greens are still polling between 10 and 12%. They will remain a political force in German life. We've discussed this before. It's the most ideological of all the parties in Germany. It has, the true believers will continue to vote for them. So they are the only party of the outgoing coalition which could be said to be in good shape.
Right, because they have the true believers. Yeah. How much will the EU freak out the globalists if AfD does really well?
They are already.
I don't know about winning, but
yeah.
I mean, if they're the first party, that is, if they're the first party, I don't know if they could be the first party. Maybe they will be. Maybe they will come out first.
Well, I mean,
what kind of a freak out are we looking at?
I mean, realistically, in Germany's expecting a collapse of the CDU, which is what this would be, and a surge of the AfD. I mean, nothing like that has happened in German politics since the Second World War. I mean, there's a first time for everything.
What about a strong second?
But a very strong second is now a distinct possibility. So if they come out with, say, 24, 25% of the vote, and the CDU is stuck on around 29, or even less, then it is in Germany, it comes as close as you will ever get in modern Germany to a revolutionary moment. And my understanding is that they're already freaking out. The political class in Germany is already in a state of hysteria about all of this, and that the EU centre is in a state of hysteria about all of this. And of course, they're blaming Elon Musk, and they're terrified that the AfD and the Trump people are going to link up in some way, and that there's again talk about bans and prescriptions and that kind of thing. But if we get there on the 23rd of February and we get that kind of outcome, then, as I said, this will be an earthquake, a political earthquake in Germany. And it'll be interesting to see what they do, because, first of all, I don't believe the CDU, CSU would want to go into coalition with the AfD. That can be completely excluded. I think they would be very wary about going into coalition with the Greens, because so much of the Greens' energy program is so disliked by the CDU, CSU grassroots. So we would probably at that point have another grand coalition, CDU, CSU, SPD. Merz would become the chancellor. Olaf Scholz would still be there. It'd be more of the same, more drift, more decay, but with a very strong opposition by the AfD, with the BSW in the parliament now chasing the SPD's heels, and a political class in great anger and in great panic, and probably looking for ways to close the threat, both from the right and the left, down. And we could probably see more pressure on these two parties, police raids, investigations of their leaders, threats to ban them, all that kind of thing.
I mean,
so a politically very unstable period in Germany, coming on top of the economic problems, and an unstable period for Europe.
Unstable for Germany, but also stable for the political class if you get a CDU, CSU, SPD. So I mean, you have a lot of instability in Germany, in the economics of Germany. But for the political class, as you say, it's more of the same. Nothing really changes, except now they have AfD in a stronger position and the BSW in a stronger position, but they remain in power for the next however many years. Does Germany have that kind of time?
No.
I mean, do they realize that Germany has been and is being deindustrialized, is being taken down by the globalist forces, by their own doing, by their own CDU, CSU, SPD, green, especially green, ideologies?
No.
I mean, do they understand this?
No,
because it seems like they feel they have time to continue more of the same that we saw from Angela Merkel stretching all the way to Scholz. It doesn't seem like they have that kind of time anymore.
No, they don't. I mean, this is the point, because it is a false stability. It would build on the false stability of the Merkel era, which we discussed many times whilst Angela Merkel was chancellor, that in fact what was going on was that beneath the appearance of seeming stability, Germany was already in a state of decay. And by the way, we were saying that in program after program after program, and notice that it's now become mainstream. Now that Merkel has gone, everybody says this. Everybody is writing as if this is some great revelation, and it's something that people have never noticed before. We were talking about this for years. And what an attempt to create a grand coalition of the CDU and the SPD would be an attempt to preserve that stability, even as the instability that exists just beneath it is actually intensifying and getting worse. Germany does not need stability, doesn't want political stability at the moment. What Germany needs is change. That is what Germany needs. It needs to actually put behind it the orthodoxies of the Merkel era and actually start to look at the underlying problems that have been building up in Germany for a very, very long time and start to address them and to address them seriously. The fact that German industry has become uncompetitive, that the economy has lost its capacity for innovation, the fact that it's been led into a crisis with Russia, which Merkel, despite her denials, played an instrumental role in setting the scene for. So it needs to completely change. But the political class will try and disregard the effect of the elections and will try to preserve things as they are and hope that eventually the tide will turn, the storm will pass, and things will go back to the way they were. I've said this before, and I've said this in previous programs. It is very, very difficult for people outside Germany to understand how profoundly provincial German politicians actually are. It's a very decentralized country in some ways. The concept that local politics is greater in Germany than anywhere else. It's very unusual for German politicians, especially given the way in which the political system in Germany is organized, to actually sit back and think of the whole picture, or and to actually come out and say things that will seriously challenge the comfortable small world in which they live. So it's going to be very, very difficult for Germany to change. Certainly, if you got change now, if we got a radically different direction, Germany still has the time and the space to make use of it. But it's not the United States. And 4 more years of drift would be an absolute disaster for Germany. But that is what the political class is determined that Germany is going to get. The German people are starting to have doubts, which is why the AfD and the BSW are rising.
Yeah, I wonder if it's too little, too late.
Mm.
You know, I mean, 4 years.
4 years, yeah. 4
Do
years
they have
is
4 years.
4 years is a
Or do they
very
have
long
1
time.
year,
Yeah,
or 2 years. I mean,
no.
You know, you get reports about the state of the economy in Germany, and it's I don't know if they have that time.
No, well, I mean, I gather. I mean, I've been hearing that the chemical industry, which was one of the mainstays of the German economy, is now on its last legs. I mean, without gas and with the general crisis, I mean, they are basically closing down. And there's problems apparently with the car industry. The Chinese are offering to buy the Volkswagen factories. There's resistance to this. I mean, the whole place is I would say it's exactly falling apart, but things are now visibly going very, very wrong. And of course, to repeat again, the problem is that this is an industrial structure, an economic structure, which under the appearance of stability has been allowed to decay. There's not been that change within Germany, that revisiting of how industry should be managed that Germany needed. They've never set up, they've never really been big in any of the new technologies. They've lost positions over time in things where once upon a time, historically, they were very strong, such as aerospace, for example. They retreated for many years into the car industry. The car industry, however, is being overtaken by new technologies coming out of China and the United States. They're in a very, very bad place. And I don't think the political class yet understands that.
Yeah. You would think they would be in a better place given the fact that Ursula is German. And that the EU, you would think that the EU would skew towards benefiting Germany. But what the EU has done is it's actually helped in Germany's demise.
Yes, it has, because
It's accelerated it.
What has happened, and this is, again, a point which I think we were making many times on many programs. People came away with the wrong idea that Germany was running the EU. Germany benefited in a kind of way from the EU in the sense that it had protected markets. But of course, those protected markets have now come back to sting it because it took away further incentives to innovate. But even as Germany was running things seemingly on its own behalf, what it was actually doing was piling up power at the EU center. And the EU center has now become the parasite that's killing the host, because that's what it's doing.
All right, we will end it there. Ursula, the parasite killing the host. we will end it there. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockbit, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what we are wearing in this video update today. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.